Good evening. I want to welcome you all to the Farmers Branch City Council meeting of Tuesday, April the 18th. The time is 6 p.m., 6:01. And if you would, let's please rise as Councilman Jackson gives an invocation, followed by the pledge by Councilman Roman.
You bow your heads with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight with thankfulness in our hearts. Thankfulness for the opportunity to serve our community alongside our community. We're thankful for the honor to stand here tonight, bringing individual ideas together for the good of our community. And even when we disagree, we thank you for hearts of appreciation and mutual respect. Tonight, Lord, I only ask that you continue to guide tonight and our city with your loving and firm hand. In your gracious name I pray. Amen.
Please join me with the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now the Texas pledge.
Texas flag. That is thee. Texas, one state, one God. God. All right, please be seated. Okay, tonight our first item on the presentation is a presentation of a 5-year service award to Code Enforcement Officer Barry Boyd. Barry, come forward. Okay. Barry Boyd started his career in Farmers Branch Code Enforcement on March 26, 2018. Throughout his tenure with the city, Barry has worked diligently to keep the residents in Farmers Branch safe by enforcing its many codes and regulations, in addition to the everyday activities of a code enforcement officer. Barry has also become the division sign officer by reviewing the issue dozens of temporary signs permits every year, but that's a busy part. On April 2022, Barry became the first Farmers Branch Code Enforcement Officer to obtain the state fire inspection license. Barry has performed a number of fire inspections on food trucks and at apartment complexes to help the fire department meet its inspection goals. Barry has shown the willingness to go above and beyond the service to his community. His willingness to learn new things, help other staff and departments, and assist residents toward compliance make him a valuable member of the Neighborhood Service Department, the Code Enforcement Division, and his organization. We'd like to thank Barry for his years of service to this community and hope he will continue to serve for many years to come. Barry? Would you like to say anything?
Just a few words.
Certainly.
Just a few words.
Get
I'd
the
like
mic
to,
up here for you.
all right, I'm a little taller.
Okay, yeah, you're a little taller.
Okay, all right. No, I'd just like to say thank you to the staff and people who entrusted me to come here and perform my duties here in Farmers Branch, and say thank you to all involved to make this possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a presentation of a service award to Robert Cerebro for 25 years of service to the City of Farmers Branch in the Parks and Recreation Department. Roberto, come up here. 25 years ago, Roberto began his career with the City of Farmers Branch and established his worth very quickly. He is a natural leader with extensive experience and a wealth of knowledge who actively mentors employees, learning the Farmers Branch way. Roberto has been involved in many projects throughout his career. He was recently promoted to a landscape crew leader due to his work ethic, skill set, and positive influence on his team. Roberto can also be found working special events where he uses his care for others to bring smiles to those he serves. Roberto is the husband and father and has called Farmers Branch his home for many years. Roberto is strong in his faith and enjoys acting church functions with his family. Here's your 25-year pin. Do you have anything you'd like to say to the city?
I can say it.
Sure.
Well, I can say thank you for the many years for the City of Farmers Branch to give me these many years to stay here. There's some tough times sometimes good times, but we make it. There is a dangerous situation sometimes in the roads that we have to stay in there. Some people's got injured. Some people's make it, 2, 3 years and quit. And I say, no, I got to stay. I got to stay. I got to support my family. I don't like to move jobs. And these guys support me a lot. And I give it thanks to the City Farmers Branch and all the staff, too. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I say something right quick, just about Roberto? I've had the privilege to work with Roberto the whole 25 years here with him. And one thing about him, his knowledge, everything that was written in here about him is correct. This guy's a hard worker. You see him mentoring new guys that we got come in. If you don't know, the younger generation now has a hard time understanding the definition of the word work. And so I'm not talking about anybody in this room now. But he does real well. He's a good leader. He mentors these guys and teaches them, because if you think landscaping is just going out cutting something or pulling something out of the ground or throwing a little water on it, that's not what we do. But I want to say thank you to him for his time that he's been here and had the privilege to work with him all this time. And he is a great addition that we have here when he came on for the city. And he works hard. Thank you very much.
Next, we have a presentation of the Employee of the Month Award. The City of Farmers Branch has a strong culture and nature's respect, where we value everyone's opinion and acknowledge their perspective. We strive for excellence and constantly look for ways to do our very best. We believe in accountability, we care, we trust. Where the city core values, this is the culture of REACT. The leadership of Farmers Branch appreciates the effort, dedication, and time our employees put into the job. The city has a program to recognize employees for depicting those values. We appreciate and recognize our employees' hard work and their efforts. Tonight, we recognize Blanche Van Horn. Blanche, you here?
My name is Bianca.
Huh? What? Bianca. I'm sorry, Bianca.
It's okay.
Okay. As our Employee of the Month. For the month of March, Bianca has stepped up multiple times to assist her team whenever needed. Okay. Her efficiency, professionalism, and above all attention to detail are exemplary. Blanche, We appreciate your commitment to our city and are truly appreciative. And here's your award.
Thank you.
And would you like to say something?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Please.
Hi, I just want to say thank you for this award. I honestly wouldn't be able to do it without my team because they're just so great and just they're always helping me whenever they can. And I also want to thank the finance and the IT department because they've worked really closely with me in the projects that I've been working on. So thank you so much for this.
You're certainly welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, we are. Bianca, you're not going to get away just yet. I do have a comment because we wanted to make sure the department heads do recognize because we know how all of our employees are so humble and they will not brag on themselves. So that's our role. So my name is Yoko Matsumoto and I'm fairly new to the world of Farmers Branch. But if you don't know anybody in the human resources department or the world that we work in, it is a fascinating world. We can talk about benefits in 10 minutes and 5 minutes later we're talking about compensation and then we move over to an employee relations situation. So it's a very complex, intricate world. And Bianca falls into the piece that is benefits and our compensation. Through the transition, she actually started picking up other aspects of HR, which included payroll and our HRIS system, which if you don't know what that is, it's the backbone of everything that happens within a city. So in my short time here, through what I've heard prior to coming on board and actually being here for about 3 weeks now, some of the observations I learned about Bianca is she has a natural sense of curiosity. And that is very important because she just dove into a world that she did not know and she wanted to learn payroll. And the reason why is because how many employees in here would come to our office if your payroll was off? Yes, so she understood the importance of the challenge that she had to work with and face. And so that was one of the aspects that I've noticed in Bianca. The second is her humility. We all have gaps in our knowledge and gaps in our learning, and she is humble enough to admit when she does not know something, and she had the strength to build a team that include finance, that include IT, that brought members of our team onto this, and she worked cross-departmental to make sure that our employees received the benefits that they needed on their payroll. And so that is a fantastic quality. And lastly, you have the grit. She knew exactly what would happen if our employees didn't get paid. Our employees worked very, very hard and they deserve the pay that was coming to them. So she had the grit to work with all these different individuals, bring it together and work through the process. So those three things are the things that I notice. But I did want to mention, it is a direct reflection of the team that she has standing next to her. And I didn't want to ignore that because not everybody on that team has these same characteristics. And it's such an honor to be able to come onto a team that supports each other, works with other departments to ensure that the things that the public doesn't see on the outside is HR getting the job done and doing it very well. So thank you to our team of HR professionals for all the work you put into it. That is what I have to say, and I'm requesting 2 pictures. Could I have one with Bianca and then one with our team? Sure. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Finally, we have a proclamation. It's Lights Out Texas, April 22nd to May 12th and September 5th to October 29th. Whereas each year, nearly 2 billion birds migrate through the state of Texas, and these birds must contend with rapidly increasing but under-recognized threats, light pollution. Light attracts and disorients migrant birds, making them vulnerable to collisions with buildings and other urban threats, and turning our non-essential lights off. So turning out our non-essential light also provides additional benefits such as reducing electric consumption and saving money, and reducing pollution associated with the power production. And with Farmers Branch is joining in an international effort to reduce bird building collisions by proposing and implementing a simple solution to protect birds, turning off non-essential lights during critical migration periods. Turning off non-essential lights dramatically reduces the hazards to migrating birds, allowing them to safely proceed with their journeys. And Lights Out Texas is a statewide initiative that aims to raise awareness of this issue, and is facilitated by the Audubon Society of Texas, in collaboration with the conservation and nonprofits, universities, governmental organizations, and Texas dedicated to the conservation of birds. And residents and business owners are encouraged to help protect birds and save energy by turning off all non-essential lights across the city from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. during the spring and fall critical bird migration period, and also April 22nd to May 12th in September, and also September the 5th through October the 29th. Therefore, I, Bill Glancy, Mayor of the City of Farmers Branch, hereby proclaim critical migratory period from April 22nd through May 1st and September 5th through May 29th as turn out your lights time. So that, and this was done for our, here he comes. This is part of our sustainability group that's come forward with this, and we thank you. Anything you would like to say about this subject?
Well, thank you. We have some signs here.
Okay, yeah, look at this.
Lights Out Texas, or turn around.
Okay,
And I'd like to ask the person who's really responsible for this to say something. Come on.
please do.
Thank you, Joseph. So I just want to say thank you to the city. I feel very, very honored to live in a community that prioritizes even the smallest creatures that live with us, the birds, and is committed to sustainability principles and to our future. And of course, I want to say thank you, of course, to our leadership, our city leadership, for setting up the committee and then making a commitment to ensuring a brighter future for everyone. And of course, I would be remiss without saying anything about our amazing staff, Alex, who does a yeoman's job of just carrying in the work day in and day out. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Here's your proclamation. And Jeff would like to get a picture of you guys.
And we have our items of community interest for this council meeting. April 18th, 2023, the City of Farmers Branch recently deployed 29 brand new CR2 AED units across the entire city to improve our life-saving ability 24/7. These units are use the latest technology, and they're Wi-Fi enabled so that our first responders get notified as soon as they are activated. Also, our fire department will have an open house and safety fair this Saturday, April 22nd from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Come out for rescue demonstrations and apparatus tours, plus a bounce house and other kid-friendly activities at Fire Station Number 1, that's on Webb Chapel near Mansky Library. Also, same day, join our Farmers Branch Police Department on Saturday, April 22nd, for DEA National Prescription Drug Takeback. Officers will be in front of the Justice Center from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. that day, collecting any unwanted, unused, or expired medications for destruction. Also, all District 3 residents are invited to a town hall next Tuesday night, April 25th, at 6 p.m. here in the council chamber. Council member Tina Bennett Burton will host the event right here to discuss addiction resources, city projects, and other important topics. Also, it's that time of year. Encore has tree trimming teams at work this month along many major city roads and neighborhoods. This process helps Encore avoid power outages, costly repairs, and preserves long-term grid reliability. You can call 888-875-6279 for more information. Early voting. You need to know early voting begins April 24th and will continue through May 2nd. At Brookhaven College and at Mansky Library. Also, we're calling all prospective board members in Farmers Branch. We have 10 separate boards and commissions, and each one provides an important service to our city. So why not volunteer to serve on one? Applications are now being accepted. Call 972-247-3131 for more information. Also, if you'd like to stay up to date on our comprehensive plan for the city, remember that it's easy to find on our website. It's one of the main tabs on our banner at the top of the main page, and we'll be soon entering phase 3 of this important project, and you'll hear more about that next month in May. April is National Safe Digging Month, you may not know. A reminder to check on gas pipelines before any digging project to prevent natural gas leaks. Just call 811 before you dig. Help us celebrate Spring in the Branch with your best photos. Enter our city photo contest in any of 3 categories: parks, people, or pets. Just post your best pics on Facebook or on Instagram with hashtag #InTheBranch, and you might win a $100 gift card to a local restaurant. And lastly, get your tickets for Hello Dolly, a musical filled with charisma and heart set in New York City at the turn of the last century. It's boisterous and charming from start to finish. Performances will run through April 23rd. Go to thefirehousetheater.com to buy those tickets. And as always, you can sign up for City e-News at farmersbranchtx.gov. Mayor, that concludes all of our items of community interest.
Thanks, Joe. All right, let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item G, is discuss the state of the city. Anybody have anything that transpired since the last council meeting that they would like to bring forward to the people? Councilman Roman?
Thank you, Mayor. So we've got some exciting things that are happening in our city. Just recently, we had a groundbreaking for a kiddie academy, which is a school out in Mercer Crossing. It's located on the corner of Valley View and Mercer Parkway. And these people are just so excited to be part of Farmers Branch and part of our business community, and I could not have been prouder to have them part of the partnership that we're going to build. Not only is it going to be a school, but it's also going to be a retail center, which if anybody lives out on the west side, you know that retail is something that is desperately needed. So I did want to highlight that that's going on, and we've got a new partner in the city that also is working with our Chamber of Commerce. On another note, I also wanted to mention that recently we received an email from a resident here in Farmers Branch. For those of you who are unaware, there was a very large gathering, probably the first gathering out in the Mercer Crossing neighborhood that was a neighborhood block party. And I just wanted to read the email that was sent from Miss Heidi Porter, who was one of the individuals who held that event. Ben and Mike, good morning. I hope you don't mind that I'm reaching out to you both directly. I'm one of the homeowners that co-hosted the neighborhood event in Mercer Crossing last weekend, and I wanted to give a very special thank you to you and your teams that helped us. Between the Parks and Rec and Public Works helping us close part of our street, to the police department for coming by and checking on us to make sure we were all safe. We ended up having over 350 people in attendance, and it would not have been such a huge success without the help from you all. So please share our immense gratitude with your teams and let them know that their day-to-day jobs really do make a difference to our community. Again, huge thanks, Heidi. So another example of our staff going above and beyond to try and help a community have a successful event, to build a little bit more camaraderie in a neighborhood that's brand new. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Councilman Driscoll, you have anything? Okay. How about that? Yes, Councilwoman Burton.
So this past Saturday, Janie Stark Elementary had their PTA carnival, and 3 of us participated in the dunk tank. Councilman Jackson, myself, and even Ben threw in for a little bit. It was amazing, and we will do that more often, getting out into the community as a group, presenting. They really appreciated us, and we really are bruised up now. So thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. We had a meeting that Councilman Roman initiated on fentanyl here a week or so ago, and there was a little bit of disappointment in the amount of people that actually turned out, but it's such an important subject in our city and our school system. The program is being aired on YouTube and different things, so I would encourage you to go out and look at that. We had some very informative people from drug enforcement and that come and talk to us about the subject and some of the things that they're seeing in it, and how you can be aware of what your children are doing and that. So I would certainly encourage you to go out or go and see that program if you weren't aware of it past. Okay, with that, I'll move on to the consent agenda. Council, you have 5 items on the consent agenda. Anything that you'd like to take off and discuss individually, or if not, I would entertain a motion for consent agenda.
I have a quick question.
Certainly. Councilman Rowan?
Mayor, you asked this question during study session, and I think it's important to discuss here as we're talking about it in public. You had asked to kind of explain. It was the item where we're talking about the, let's see. The mosquito surveillance, so item H3. If you wouldn't mind just kind of, if we can have a staff member just kind of explain the monitoring that we do for surveilling mosquitoes, and at what point do we begin fogging services? It's a question that I get a few times throughout the year, so I want to make sure that for those that are watching that have an understanding of how we administer that.
Got it. Shane Davis, Director of Sustainability and Public Health. Yeah, last year at the drought, you probably didn't get as much as you will this summer. So last summer was a nice reprieve from staff. The company we use, they do the surveillance for us. What they do is they have 5 monitoring places around the city. They set out the traps. They collect them on a weekly basis and either take them to Dallas County Lab for analysis, or we share resources with other neighboring cities for that as well. So we don't all have to make a trip down to Dallas County. Once we get the analyses back from Dallas County, we fog based on public health reasons. So just because you have a few mosquitoes in your yard, it gets a little bit annoying. That's not why the city sprays. The city would have the contractor fog when we have West Nile detected in some of the mosquitoes. So that's our public health basis. There are other viruses that are out there as well, but West Nile is the most prevalent one you're going to hear anymore. But that's the reason we would spray. Is that enough? Or
That's good.
Is it good?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Shane. Okay, anything else on the consent agenda? Can I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda. as
Okay, you have a
presented.
motion made before you by Councilman Roman to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second to that?
Mayor, I'll second that motion.
Okay. Okay, you have a second by Councilman Driscoll. All those in favor, mark your ballots. Okay, we have 5 people voting in affirmative yes, with no noes, 0 noes. So that passes unanimously. Okay, that will move us on to public hearing, and item L1 is to conduct a public hearing to consider a city-initiated application to rezone approximately 41.8 acres from the Planned Development District number 24 and 51 acres from Planned Development District Number 25, and 19.2 acres from Planned Development District Number 70 to Planned Development District Number 86, generally bound by Havenhurst Street on the north, BNFS Railroad right-of-way on the west side, Spring Lake Road and Farmers Branch Lane on the south, Rawhide Creek and Valley View Lane, and the rear property line properties on Nestle Street on the east, and to amend and restate in their entirety the use of development and regulations for all property located within the PD 86 and take appropriate action. Okay. Allison, you going to speak to this?
We're going to have a contractor at Kira McCardle. She is a presenter tonight.
Okay.
And so I would invite her to unmute herself and take it away. So this is when Kira would unmute and talk. There we go.
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Allison. Good evening, council. Just to check, can you guys see my screen? Is it sharing?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you. My name is Kira McCardle, and I'm a planning contractor to the planning department. This evening, I'll be presenting a proposed city-led rezoning application to expand and update PD 86. I am going to make my presentation this evening brief. We do have our counselor, our consultant, who did help us on this project here tonight as well, and they'll be doing a presentation after mine. So I will, to respect your time and to avoid repetition, I will be trying to make my presentation brief, but I will be available as well as other staff members, and the consultant will be available as well afterwards for questions. So as was said in the introduction, this is a city-led application to expand PD 86. Lands from what is currently within PD 25 and PD 24, as well as some land within PD 70, will be incorporated into PD 86. So this expands PD 86 from the east side of I-35 over to the west side of I-35. The reason for the expansion is this is one of the key implementation items from the I-35 Corridor Vision Study, which was adopted by Council in 2021. It provides the opportunity to have complementary design and development on both the east and west sides of I-35, improving the linkage between those two sides of the highway. Target Area 1 was identified by the public as the priority for redevelopment and the largest opportunity for change within the I-35 corridor. And connecting the east and west sides of the I-35 corridor was also one of the key elements of feedback that we received from the public when putting together the vision study. In addition, other updates are proposed for PD 86, and those updates include changes to the code, which reflect the expansion to the west of I-35, so updating the street types and the building envelope standards so that there are appropriate building envelope standards for the west side of I-35. Updating in the standards to reflect current best practices for a form-based code, and providing increased flexibility in response to some developer requests, and improving the ease of use of the plan. In terms of the regulating plan, we have added new street types to the west side of I-35. In addition, existing street types have been updated to reflect current Public Works plans. And staff and the consultant did work with Public Works to ensure that all the street types are reflective of their current plans. In terms of building envelope standards, we did add a light assembly building envelope standard, which would be implemented on the west side of I-35. In addition, we've removed the shopfront colonnade building envelope standard, which was to be originally planned to be implemented in the central section of Valley View Lane on the east side of I-35, but hadn't been implemented to date. So it's been replaced with a building envelope standard that will still have a Main Street feel, but will be easier to implement. In terms of architectural standards, we've added some flexibility to signage in response to developer requests, and we've made modifications to the building material regulation as a result of HB 4239, which no longer allows cities to require certain building materials to be used. And again, to summarize, this is a city-initiated application. There are two main components to the rezoning. First is the expansion to the west side of I-35 East, and the second is amendments to the form-based code to improve ease of implementation and ensure best practice. In terms of impacts of this rezoning, if there are any non-conforming uses, I don't believe there are none to my knowledge that are being caused by this rezoning, but any non-conforming use is able to continue. This rezoning does not require any use to change, nor does it require any structure to change at any point in the short to mid time future. When development would need to comply with PD 86 regulations is at the time of redevelopment. So that is when the change will be seen within the PD. In terms of public process, we did follow the standard public process in terms of notification letters to all landowners within the PD 86 and expansion area and within 200 feet of that boundary. In addition, there was an advertisement in the Dallas Morning News. No letters of opposition have been received to date. And on March 27th, the Planning and Zoning Commission did unanimously recommend approval of this zoning request. So with that, I'll end my presentation and I'll hand things over to Kim and Paris from Gensler to provide some more detail on the proposed PD 86 expansion and update.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Kim Dresner. I'm an urban planner with Gensler. And with me, I have brought, my, running into issues. Oh, there we go. Okay, I have brought my boss, Barry Hand, a principal and architect, and then also our subconsultant, Paris Rutherford. I will be doing most of the talking this evening because I know we all would like to get home at a reasonable time, and if I let them talk, they would talk until that back wall fell over. So Kira set us up very nicely. Just to go over what I'm going to be presenting today, I'll do an overview of the project scope, go over the downtown form-based code area boundary, overview of the main changes by chapter, the renderings that we've included, and then any questions and answers that you'll have. So an overview of the scope. Again, Kira set us up nicely here. The recommendation came out of the I-35 corridor study, a strategy to develop a form-based code to address building heights, floor to area ratio standards, open space, and building setbacks with a focus on the Valley View frontage. And also to create a form-based code for target area 1, which is identified in the I-35 corridor study, as an addition to the PD 86 that creates consistency in look and feel for the I-35 corridor. Again, this is joining the east and west sides of the highway together, which was a major comment out of the I-35 corridor study. And the betterments, improvements that have been approved will play a big role in this. So the downtown boundary, the downtown form-based code boundary. This map right here was pulled right out of your I-35 corridor study. So you can see here in this light orange, this is the existing station area. And then target area 1, which is what we're adding into the form-based code, is right over here. And we have extended the boundary just slightly for what we're now calling.
So y'all can't see this on your monitors?
Okay. Oh,
Can-
I'm so sorry.
No, someone's coming down to fix it. Just
Okay.
want to let you know, you're going to have to visualize for a quick second. You can keep talking.
It's up, Allison.
It's up.
It's up.
Oh, it's up.
We have it up for the.
Let's go back to, where's the presentation? Yeah, no, that was like that.
Active Zoom, so it's a little bit different.
Where is their presentation?
Is it PowerPoint?
There it is.
No, it's a PDF.
Oh,
I guess we could use Barry and Harris right now. Fill all that open space.
Is this
No.
it? Down. Is this it?
You got a dance step?
Yes.
Right there.
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I'll go back one so you can see what I was talking about. This came right out of the I-35 corridor study. So this, in the light orange, is the station area, which is the existing adopted document. And then we're adding in this target area 1, which is in this darker orange, not this up here, the target area 2 or 3. It's just this target area 1. So we have then extended that area just a little bit more beyond what was recommended out of the I-35 corridor study to include just a hair bit more property to create a more, a larger area for development to be feasible. So an overview of the changes that were made. In Chapter 1, we added language to describe the West Branch area. In Chapter 2, which is the regulating plan, we added rules for development for the West Branch area and incorporated graphics to illustrate the direction given. So you can see here some graphics of examples of what that would look like. We consolidated multiple maps into one regulating plan map and extended the regulating plan to include the West Branch area, which is over here. A little bit more detailed look at this regulating plan. Again, we combined the 3 elements. It was, let's see, it was the streetscapes, it was the building heights, and then the regulating plan into this one consistent graphic diagram. We revised the street front colonnade to be just street front. We got rid of the colonnade aspect of it. We added in, again, the West Branch area on the west side of I-35. And then we added in the light assembly frontage type, which on the map is the blue, not blue, the green stroke color. And number 5, we rectified any street classifications for streets that either have been abandoned or constructed since PD 86 was last modified. We added and updated some street types. So this is going to be a quick overview of those street types. We added in Valley View Lane on the west side, and this pretty much marries up with the recommendation out of the I-35 corridor study for Valley View Lane. We added in a street type for the northern portion of Branch View. And then again, for the southern part of Branch View, we added in a street section which included the median, the boulevard that's running through that portion of that street. And then for some of the modifications that we made to the existing street sections, Denton Drive is a good example, but most of those changes, and again, Kira mentioned this, we worked with city staff in the engineering department to really make sure that things were meeting standards for the city. So there were a lot of things in the previous version, like, for example, 7-foot wide parallel parking, and that's not industry standard, 8 foot is. So we made some of those modifications to get it up to standard and be functional roadways. Building envelope standards is chapter 3. Again, we did the shop fronts. This is where we removed the shop front colonnade and just changed it to shop front. And then incorporated best practices for more feasible development. So this includes reducing height of the street wall to make development more pedestrian friendly, We allowed spaces for patios and outdoor dining, added language to allow pocket parks within the blocks, and adjusted the minimum ground story height from 15 feet to 12 feet. Then we added in the light assembly building envelope standard, and this followed the same format as the other building envelope standards in the document. So it includes use, siting, height, and elements. So to quickly go through those. Permitted uses include small-scale, light industrial type uses, such as small-scale offices, warehouse, assembly, packaging uses, and support uses such as live-work units, retail, service, and institutional uses. And then examples of prohibited uses include pawn shops, tobacco sales, vehicle maintenance, heavy machinery sales and storage, hauling or storage companies, and SOBs. And then citing 65% of the building facade must be built to the required building line, loading areas associated loading activities, and parking shall be located on type B street frontages. So if you're not familiar, in the document it has type A and type B street frontages. Type A is your more pedestrian-oriented street frontages, and your type B is where more of the back-of-house activity occurs. So we're really ensuring that all that activity is happening on B-type streets. And then 50-foot setback from rear of lot if there's no alley. And this allows for enough loading space for any trucks for the assembly or warehousing. And then a vegetative screen may be used in lieu of a screening wall along any unbuilt required building line on type B streets. We heard from some local business owners that the required wall that's in the document is very it's very expensive. So we allowed this vegetative screening wall as an alternative to make it a little bit more affordable option, but still give you that screening and make it a very inviting place in that sense. For height regulating, the regulating plan dictates the minimum height requirement, but generally for the light assembly, it's 1-story minimum. Ground story shall have a minimum of 12 feet in height with a maximum of 30 feet in height. Upper story shall have a minimum of 9 feet in height with a maximum of 14 feet. Masonry screen wall of at least 3 feet in height with a minimum of 6 foot in height, or a vegetative screen is required along any required building line that is not otherwise occupied by a principal building along type A frontages. And vegetative screen required along type B street frontages to screen the surface parking. And elements within this section, entrances should have a significant focal point on the building, and then fenestration shall comprise of at least 20% of the building facade. In Chapter 4, this is the streetscape standards section. We added civic greens in the West Branch area and expanded the tree list. Chapter 5 is the architectural standards. We removed the building materiality to be compliant with HB 2439, as Kira mentioned earlier, and revised the signage to allow more flexibility of signage within the district. Chapter 6 is administration. There were no changes to this chapter. And Chapter 7 is definitions. We removed words from the definitions that were no longer being used, and we added light assembly, home occupation, and motel definitions. And then finally, we added 4 renderings into the document. This first one is a conceptual rendering of the development in the West Branch area along Valley View Lane. The second one is a conceptual rendering of light assembly frontage development in the West Branch area on a public-private partnership civic green, what that might look like. This conceptual rendering is a general street frontage development in the station area along Denton Drive. And then finally, this conceptual rendering of general street frontage development in the station area at Valley View Lane and Denton Drive. And that is the end. I'm open for questions.
Councilor Rowe,
Thank you, Mayor. I'm glad that we're looking into this. One of the concerns that I hear is being the council member who not only represents the west part of town, but also lives over there, is the connectivity issues that we're experiencing. It feels like we're all alone in an island on the west part of town. And I can see how, while I-35 is not necessarily like a brick wall that prevents people from coming. It is some geographical boundary, and for some reason, people don't like to cross 35 sometimes. So in this, in what we're discussing today, the change that we're making to the plan development, can you talk to me specifically about the effect that will have on the number of lanes on the streets to maneuver from basically coming down Valley View from the west side to the east side?
Yes, I think I can get to that street section. So there's improvements. Go ahead, Kira. Were you going to say something?
Sorry, I can pipe in here. This is Kira again. So maybe we'll use Kim's slides to discuss. If you look at Valley View Lane on the east side of I-35, this does reflect engineering's current plans. This is the west side. Could you go to the east side, Kim?
The east side's not in this presentation.
Oh, okay, the east side isn't, sorry. On the east side of Valley View Lane, the plan that's in the PD 86 does reflect the engineering's current plans to reduce vehicular traffic or reduce the number of lanes by 2, I believe 1 in either direction. One would be used for parallel parking, and the other one would be developed as a greenway or some green space and trees along the side of the road. On the west side of I-35, again, it's the same in the analysis that was done in support of the I-35 corridor vision study. It was found that there was a lot of excess capacity on that road. So there is a narrowing of that street as well. I believe it's in 1 lane in either direction. However, we did leave the lanes wide, especially to allow for movement of truck traffic along that roadway. Also, Denton Drive was changed to reflect current engineering plans, which does have a narrowing of Denton Drive as well, and the addition of parallel parking. I believe those are the only cases where any lanes have been, there's been any change in the number of lanes in the street types.
Okay, so.
And again, all of this was, sorry, and again, I just want to reiterate that all of this was done in conjunction with the Public Works Department.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, on the west side, it'll be reduced to 1 lane going in either direction?
No. It'll be
No.
2 in each direction. I think
Okay.
it's reducing from 3 to 2 in each direction.
Okay, so you're reducing it by 1, so it'll be 2 lanes in each direction, and then on the east part will be how many?
I believe it's,
I believe that's 2 lanes in either direction.
Okay, so the
as
same.
well.
yeah.
Same
And then
number of lanes.
there'll be a turn lane too for.
Okay, so right now, there's a lot of construction going on where we've reduced it to 2 lanes, and sometimes traffic is built up all the way back to the railroad tracks, which is quite a bit of distance. I know because I'm always having to come on this side of town for events, meetings, what have you. And so I don't want to create an obstacle or a hindrance in the people who live on that part of town to feel deterred from coming to this part of town and then create a further problem of division between the 2 parts of town. That's my only concern. People will take the path of least resistance, and right now with the 2 lanes, because there's a lot of projects, we have I-35 expansion, and then we've got a project that Atmos is working on, and so they've closed off some lanes and traffic has been really bad. I think that can give us some foreshadowing of what we may experience if we make that permanent. Not to mention, we've got people who are going to probably be biking who may take up another lane as well. And so those are my only concerns with this plan development. So as it is, or I guess, how would we go about modifying that, assuming, the rest of the council would be in support of that? Would we come back and have a discussion, or walk me through what that would look like if we wanted to make that change?
Well, there is a percentage, and Kira, maybe you can speak to this a little bit better, where it can go back for review.
Well, yes, sorry. In your motions, Counselor, there is an option where you can send it back to staff to do further work. So you do have that option before you.
Alrighty. And I, of course, want to open the discussion up to the other council members. I don't want to just obviously decide on my own, but that's just my own personal experience and what I've heard from people about this, so.
This is not a streets project that's happening. I just want to clarify.
Get closer to the mic, dear.
This is not in our streets project right now for a project at all. So this is just like a plan, but I'll let Paris Rutherford step in.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, Allison, you're saying that us moving forward with approving this item on the agenda would not have any bearing on our ability to determine the number of lanes?
Well, I don't want to speak for Ryan in the streets department, but these are simply plans if they want to be implemented down the road, but we can change any part of it that you want. This is just a larger plan that could match the other side of the street, but we don't have a plan to do any of this on the west side unless Ryan does, and we just don't magically know about it, but I know he doesn't.
Okay.
I just want to clarify any fears.
Right, no, and I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
I'm being proactive and
Exactly.
bringing this up before we pass this, and it's like, well, you passed this, why didn't you ask the question?
And then where'd my road go? So I wanted to make sure that's very clear, because, that's confusing, but please go ahead.
Paris Rutherford, Catalyst Group, working with Gensler on this and obviously with you all. The one thing I would say is this is primarily a land use exercise, I guess you would say, as it relates to the expansion of the PD and then having, guidelines over on the west side as well. But I think the ultimate goal is to envision how redevelopment can occur on the west side of 35 in a way that allows that connection between the two halves of the city to come together. I think right now, the way the Valley View works, because I used to actually work right down the street as well, it largely works as a cut-through for people that may be experiencing traffic on 190 and they want to find a way to more quickly get over without dealing with the interchange, that kind of a thing. And I think with that combined with kind of a lack of development that is on the street right now, it allows people to see that as a highway and to just blow through it. So this part of this exercise is to envision a change there where there's additional development and what's happening on the west side has more amenities and employment and housing and other uses and has streets that can accommodate that. So it's a vision, I guess you would say, but ultimately for any kind of street change to occur, there would have to be a normal engineering process. They would go back and reassess trips and whether or not it makes sense to reduce the lanes, regardless of what could happen there in the future.
Okay, understood. Thank you for clarifying, and as long as we have the ability to have that discussion at some point, then I have no issues or other questions with this item.
Do we comments down here?
I do. I have a question. So what was the rationale? It seems like the original version of this didn't go all the way to the railroad tracks. It stopped where? Valley Branch Lane?
Yeah, I can go back to that map. Yes, it stopped right about there with one little
Okay.
block.
So Branch View Lane and then up Valley View to, looks like Valley Branch Lane, it looks like. What was the rationale in extending that to the railroad? And then why didn't we go beyond the railroad?
Well, that's a good question, but I think to answer your first question, it's nothing that's going to happen right now, but that railroad is on the long-term, on COG's long-term vision for transit, essentially, railroad, for passenger rail. And it connects downtown Irving to downtown Frisco, and this is one of the stops that they've envisioned. So when we looked at it, we thought, hey, the station is envisioned to be right here. Why not bring it over to the station? To your point, it easily could go on the other side, but I think the focus here was to focus on the four corners of 35 itself on the intersection. So staff allowed us to move over to the railroad and then allow a plan to be put together so that it could at least embrace one side of that platform. It also went down a block to the south, because when we looked at what was happening on Valley View itself, there needed to be two sides to Valley View, realistically, for that to work properly in the future. So that's why it came down an additional block in there, is to make it more feasible, I guess you would say, in terms of what could happen on the land.
Okay, thank you.
If I could expand on what Paris was just saying in terms of stopping at the railroad. When we did discuss with Gensler expanding the area beyond the Target Area 1 boundary, we did sort of take into consideration the length of time for a plan like this. The vision time for the I-35 corridor vision study is about 20 years. And we imagine that, redevelopment within PD 86, if it's expanded, it's a long-term redevelopment. It will not happen overnight. So we wanted to focus on a small area first. Once redevelopment starts on the west side, and if we see it continuing, and if the plans for the passenger railway continue to, or look like they're going to come to fruition, staff always does have that opportunity to, or council does always have that opportunity to work with staff to expand it further on the other side of the railway line.
Okay, that's what I was looking for, Kyra. Thank you very much. Because if we're looking at trying to create better connectivity with our West Side residents and Farmers Branch, you would think that this idea would continue down Valley View Lane all the way out to the Mercer Crossing area and incorporate that. But what it sounds like is, just given the time horizon, we're going to wait for some development to occur first, and that'll provide an opportunity for maybe future council to expand that area. Okay, that's good. And then one other comment that I'll make, just to piggyback on Councilman Roman's concerns about traffic. Valley View Lane today is full of 18-wheelers. So I would suggest that we consider a way to keep 18-wheeler traffic off of these roads as well. And maybe that will help to, for those roads to be more conducive to residential traffic as opposed to commercial traffic. Thank you.
Councilman Merrick, you have any comment?
No real comments, but I know the complexity of trying to make sure that the state's redevelopment of the I-35 Valley View intersected, if you will, no pun intended, with the development of the expansion of PD 86. So there's a lot of layering going on here, very tedious work going on, and I want to appreciate both y'all's time and Kira as well in the work that's gone into this. I think it makes good sense. It's incremental, expanding that as a real footprint, but it allows us to consider the expansion and the contiguous nature of that particular area. So I want to appreciate that, the work that went into that.
I would add one quick comment, if I may, and that is to say that one thing that was great in working with staff in this project is the parameter of this is looking at the land use, looking at expanding the plan, everything we went through earlier. As you do that, there are ideas that come up about what could happen in the future from a design standpoint and type of development, et cetera. So they allowed us to kind of keep a tab of those ideas in a memo that is not necessarily directly related to this, but it is a resource that's there in your brainstorming concept. So we welcome you to read that as well.
Let me throw out something to you folks for consideration. I've been through a lot of PD districts and comprehensive plans and things over the number of years that I've been here, and some of them have had some degree of success and some have not, and it's wonderful for us to plan and do all these things, and if certainly your plan is nice, I have no problem with that. But I would like to throw out to you a little different approach on this. I would like to package this thing up and promote it. You know, the short time I've been mayor this time, I've had several contacts by even international people, all kinds of people from all over the world talking about investing in the North Texas area. And I think this is such a core area to this whole North Texas area that if we package this up, and I have confidence in Jeff and Allison's can package this thing up. If not, we could get some outside help and go out and send this to all major developers in the United States on a request for proposal and let them come back to us and see what they might propose, whether they accept this or do something better to it. Because my experience with these type of things, folks, is this isn't going to get done without a lot of public money being infused into it. And so we need to figure out what some of these people might be willing to do. And we might get a whole bunch of developers that come in here to work on this thing. If they want parks and infrastructure and all those things, mostly banks don't invest in those things because they don't return investment. And so you're going to end up, if you want to do this kind of a project, it's going to cost millions of dollars in public funds to support it. And so if we get good proposals back from these people and doing this type of thing, and then we put a package together and we go to our voters and we say, do you want a bond package for so many dollars to do this project? I think right now we need to capitalize on the economic growth we have in the North Texas area. This is a great area to do that in. And I think if we could put a program together like that and see what kind of requests, maybe we won't get something back, but I think there's a lot of people sitting in New York and California and every place else that's looking for development opportunities that where there's growth area. And I think we need to capitalize on the thing rather than just come up with a plan and throw it out there, because I have my experience in the past is these things just lay there and it takes forever or forever to get them done. So I'd like us to go and do a proactive approach to market the thing and see it is. And you know, they may love what we're doing. They may come back, you know, we may send out a cow and come back with a horse. I don't know, but I think it's worth us to really take a marketing effort to put this thing together and send it out to the major developers and see what kind of feedback we can get back on this project and maybe really get it off center and get it done. I think we need to capitalize on this in the next 2 or 3 years to get it really going, or otherwise I'm not sure it's going to happen. So I won't be here to do that, but I'll throw it out to you guys. So I just think that's, you know, we need to make momentum happen here with this and not just do a plan.
You know, that's very wise. I think some of the most interesting developments that have happened in North Texas are a result of a proactive process like you're describing, where the city goes out, they actively recruit and find developers to implement their vision, and then get that interest. The private capital comes in, follows in place, and then things happen to, you know, they sometimes evolve. So I think that's very wise. There's no question that you can sit back and regulate an area, but unless, this is a complex zone. There's a lot of traffic, there's a lot of things that are going on, and there's fragmented ownership. So it's not like the city owns the land, private people own the land. So for things to occur, there does need to be a fair amount of proactivity from an economic development perspective. So I think the idea is a good one. But you know, as I mentioned earlier, the developer is the implementing agent of a community's vision. That's all the developer is. So without a vision, the developer's kind of flailing around. So at least you have a vision now, and you've got a hard document that would be encoded to allow their efforts to go forward without having to come in and go through a zoning process, et cetera. So
well, we can have them tell us what they like about it, what they don't like about it, all those kind of things. And you know, I just got a nutting today that I was invited to something Dallas is doing and comprehensive plan of the future and all that. So everybody's kind of in this ball game right now. And if we want to capitalize on it here, which I think we have a wonderful location, I don't know how you'd find a better. We got transit system, we got interstate highway systems, all the things, the pieces are here. We just need to capitalize on it in the right way. And I think if we go out to the voters with something that makes sense to them and they can, you know, I think they support that. You know, I found our community's pretty progressive when they understand what it is you're trying to do. So that's my comment on it, folks. And you can do whatever you want as far as this, accept it or the plan is this way or so. Any other comments?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just like to thank you also for the study and your work on this, as well as the work from the Planning Department and the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I think I kind of know the genesis of this. A few years ago when I was on P&Z, we talked about, do we need a visioning study for the I-35 corridor? Because as you said, it's a lot of disjointed, ownership. There's tracts of land that are sitting there, nothing happening for years. There are some businesses, but it's kind of an odd mix up and down 35. So there's a lot of work and thought went into this years ago, and this is coming to a kind of a comprehensive vision, and I like it. I'm supportive of it. And from the mayor's comments, despite the Fed raising interest rates, there's a lot of capital looking for a nice home. And we are in a dynamic economic area here in North Texas. And there are a lot of investors, a lot of international investors that are coming here with a lot of money. And I think this would be an excellent opportunity to get this out, get the word out through a lot of maybe some consultants and development companies, because this could be really an ideal plan for some public-private partnerships. And, we've got the land, as we've said, we're close to the highways, the airports, and have the infrastructure. And, people don't have to go halfway to Oklahoma to find land to develop. We've got some land here. And the repurposing, redeveloping the land is a little more complicated than when you've got green space. But I think this makes a lot of sense, and I'm glad that we're at this point, and I'm supportive of it. Thank you.
Okay. Council, any other comments, motions, anything? You want to take action on this or table till we do something? What's that? Huh? Close the public hearing. I have to close the public hearing, but we get a motion. If we want to take action on it, do need to close the public hearing.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 3791 as presented and close the public hearing.
And close the public hearing. You have a motion from Councilman Roman.
Second.
Our attorney today has got laryngitis, so sorry. Yes, okay. I have a second to that. Councilman Merrick. All those in favor, please vote. Cast your vote. Okay, we have 5 voting yes in the term and nobody voting against it. Passed unanimously. Thank you all for your presentation and all your work. Very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next is a regular agenda item, is J1. Consider adopting resolution number 3789, amending the city's 2022 and 23 fiscal year operating budget, amending the capital improvements program budget, and directing city expenditures be made in accordance with the budget as amended and take appropriate action.
Mayor, Council, Tammy Zimmerman, Director of Finance. So I'm seeking approval of the ordinance to revise the budget, the mid-year budget amendment. We had previously, in study sessions on March 21st and April 4th, talked about some of these proposed revisions. Some have already been approved, such as the Historical Park Event Center and the fire truck. Some others were suggested, as far as the grant coordinator position, the public safety officer position, a school resource officer position, which would be shared with the school district, shared cost, and the idea of a splash pad, which will be going through community input during this next budget cycle. We also have additional discussion items as far as our revenue projections, since it's 6 months into our fiscal year. There's also some slides on the Revenue Stabilization Fund for excess sales tax, a reserve for personnel, and additional fleet replacement funding. And then we have the City Hall lobby, which will be discussed after my presentation, which will be funded with a kind of a transfer of our DART transportation funding. We were allotted $5.9 million from DART for transportation-related projects, and we can use already existing budgeted street projects and would free up some of our funding for the City Hall lobby. We've gotten a request from the police department for additional training that they have gone through and identified, and there's some restructuring of how we're funding the police radios. So some of the new positions that have been requested, the grant coordinator position would be a person that would prepare and monitor and coordinate all the financial and administrative operations of the citywide grants, and would include grant writing, researching, and administering grants. We have several grants within the city, and the period of time between our study session and tonight, different departments have come forward with 4 different grants that they're trying and get. So this would provide a person to kind of coordinate that and give us some insight into future grant funding. There's a public service officer. This would perform non-law enforcement tasks in support of the police department, such as deploying skywatch towers, radar, and other equipment for events. So the grant coordinator position, $85,000 is the estimated cost for the remaining 6 months in this fiscal year, and $110,000 for the public service officer. School resource officer, this would be a sworn and trained police officer who works in a school setting to ensure the safety of the students, staff, and property, and to prevent and detect criminal activity. So 50% of the salary, that's because it's we're halfway in, be $60,000, and then half of that is provided by the school district, so $30,000 total. I mentioned that we had some previously approved funding for our historical park event center loan. There was a loan of $1.55 million from the general fund. It would also include a grant that they received, $1.4 million, and then there was contributions that already existed in our current budget to fund the entire construction of the event center. This loan of $1.55 million would be paid back over a 20-year period from our, it's called HOT, but it's our hotel motel revenue funds, and it's at a 1.5% interest rate. The fire truck was approved, I believe, in January or end of January, and it was an additional $1.14 million general fund expenditure, and we're taking that out of our unreserved fund balance. This additional request of money, we had already set aside $1 million for this fire truck, but due to increased lead times from 24 months to 36 to 38 months, we had to bump up when we needed the funds in order to give them a PO and order it. And it, by ordering it now, it saved us another manufacturer's cost increase. So inflation has done a little bit of refiguring, reforecasting is what we're calling it, with our fleet replacement schedule. With the increased lead times, our supply chain demands, we're not getting the orders in as they had been as quickly in the past, and inflation has increased our forecasting as well. So I'll talk about that in an upcoming slide. So revised revenue projections. These are revenue that are in the general fund. And we're going to talk on the left side of the screen as our general fund increases. This is property tax. We're suggesting an increase of $1.7 million. This is mainly due to the actual received was more than projected from settling of disputed values. And close to about 60% of those disputed values was commercial property. Sales tax, we're increasing $2.5 million in this revised budget. We had in the current budget projected a decrease, and so luckily our projections were more than that. So at this time, we've got about $2.8 million more than this time last year. Interest income, we're getting good interest rates on our investments. We're suggesting a $250,000 increase to our interest income. And then we have some revisions that are decreasing our revenues. Our building permits, we're decreasing by $300,000, and our multifamily permits, we're decreasing by $100,000 due to less activity, mainly due to canceling of builds or delays in projects. Court fees, we had 6 months of activity where it was a decrease, and we're seeing an uptick in that now with leadership change. But for current year 22-23, we're suggesting a $300,000 decrease to the budget. Now, those were general fund revenue projections that we're revising. These are our other funds that we're suggesting an increase in our hotel motel fund, an increase of $200,000. This is actually pays for itself. This gives Allison's team $200,000 more in incentive expenses to give to the corporate loyalty programs for the hotels and to spend some money on the pickleball national tournament that's coming. So this provides incentives for the hotels to work and getting more hotel motel tax to us. And then we have the STARS Multi-Sport Bond Fund, where there was an agreement to pay for the renovations. The agreement was signed in October after our current year budget was approved, and the revenue just needs to be revised to show that lease agreement. The landfill post-closure fund, we actually have two funds for our landfill, and this is just showing a net effect of zero. We're decreasing a revenue source that we have budgeted that was actually finished, and in correlation, we're decreasing the expense side of it as well. And then our special revenue fund, we received an opioid litigation settlement of $94,000, and that'll be used for our police and fire. They'll be stocking the police vehicles and training on Narcan. And this will help with the prevention of drug overdoses in the community.
Okay.
So I mentioned previously some reserve funding that we would like to do. There's a revenue stabilization fund. It would be a fund or a restricted account that we would establish and set aside some of our excess revenue. We have some restrictive state legislation on our property tax and our sales tax, or it could be one of our big revenue sources, a business were to leave, we would have that money set aside. Another reserve fund is for personnel. We're suggesting $300,000. We establish a reserve for employee retirements or departures for some of the large accrual payouts. We have payouts for vacation and sick that would right now have to be absorbed by the department's budget. And in the past, the vacancies, we'd have to wait to try and fill the vacancies to absorb that budget. So this would allow immediate hiring. Excuse me. Another reserve fund is the fleet replacement reserve, and I mentioned that the increased cost and the time delays are increasing our reforecasting our amounts. So we're suggesting a $500,000 general fund increase. Thank you. Oh, thank you. The City Hall lobby renovation, we're recommending a $1.2 million renovation of the City Hall lobby. This would allow a central service desk for questions, cross-training of staff for permits and utility collections. There will be security enhancements, some soundproofing and seating areas right outside the lobby. And this would be funded from freed up money from the DART projects, which I mentioned previously of 5.9 million. And we have a presentation on the City Hall lobby following my presentation. I mentioned the police department identified some additional training, and these courses would allow them to get caught up on some items that they desperately need. And that is 30,000. And then we're suggesting a transfer of 187,000 that we have currently budgeted in our general fund for police radios. We've identified a consolidated dispatch fund that was related to our 2014 revenue bonds that we have money left and we need to draw down from. So we're just shifting that over to that fund and using it up. So here's the math. On our left side of the screen is our general fund, and it's showing all of the suggested revisions. So we have general fund expenditure change of 5.11 million. And then we've got the revenue change, the net general fund expenditure change of 5.11 million. We have the net general fund revenue change of 3.12 million. And when you combine that with our audited fund balance of 23 million, that gets us down to an unassigned general fund balance of 20 million. And then the other funds are listed on the right-hand columns where we have our landfill closure, post-closure funds. We have our consolidated dispatch fund, which is the radios. We have our Dallas Stars multi-sport fund. We have our non-bond CIP fund, which is the City Hall lobby, switched out for the Valley View reconstruction. We have our hotel motel fund, where we're increasing the revenue. We're showing an increase to the incentive payouts. And we have the loan payment from the Event Center loan. Then we have the Special Revenue Donation Fund, which is our opioid settlement. So the bottom line is our target balance in our current year 22-23 budget book had an unassigned high target, 20%, which is 16 million. Most realistically, it'll be about 17 million. So why I say that is that's good news and bad news. We have a very healthy unassigned fund balance, but we also have some pressures from inflation, and we have some pressures from personnel shortages. So the Revenue Stabilization Fund, which I mentioned previously, we wanted to talk about that a little bit more in detail. So that target of 20%, which is what we have in our current year budget book, is about 74 days. And with our 20 million, which I just showed you, and the unassigned fund balance, that's about 91 days of operating expenditures. Our high fund balances, our unassigned fund balances, got us a AAA S&P bond rating. It helped us achieve, thank you. I'm a mess up here, excuse me.
Do you need to take a second? That's fine.
Something got stuck in my throat. We have also, this isn't new to just us. We have several municipalities that utilize this savings fund for capital projects and interfund loans if we want to provide an economic incentive or if there was any unforeseen one-time cost. And I mentioned there was some restrictive items that could take away some of our funding sources. The Comptroller Rule 3.334 would change the sales tax from point of origin to destination, which could have an effect on our revenue. It would decrease our revenue. And then this Revenue Stabilization Fund would be a policy that we can maintain a high level of quality services during economic volatility. As I mentioned previously, our sales tax is our most volatile revenue source. And again, we received that AAA bond rating from S&P believe, in the summer of last year, and that was due to the positive operating results and our high fund balances. Okay, and that's it. That's it from me, except for any questions.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions of our Director of Finance?
I have one question, Mayor. Tammy, thank you. Going back to, I just want to make sure that we're clear and that folks watching were clear on, DART awarded us $5.9 million of a grant, right? And that money is to be spent on items related to transportation mobility, right? We had already budgeted general fund money to make some improvements on Valley View Lane.
Correct.
But because of this DART grant, we can now shift some of that money that we're taking out of our general fund over to things like the lobby renovation and use the DART money to then take care of the Valley View Lane improvements. Do I have that accurate?
Yes, you explained that perfectly.
Okay, very good, thank you. In the money that we were taking from general fund to spend on Valley View Lane, we're going to shift 1.2 for the lobby, but is there still more money, still more general fund money on Valley View Lane that we can do something different with, or is there reasons why we're not doing something different with that money?
So we do need to submit our projects to DART to get approval, and we'll need to do that before January of 2024. So what has been budgeted out of Valley View, I don't know the exact total amount, but we could, once we find out how much we can shift, there's some other items. I know splash pad has been mentioned, but as we're going through this budget cycle coming up, that's when we can identify where we could utilize some of this DART funding.
Okay, great. So the moral of the story is there's still a little bit more money left in Valley View Lane that DART money could replace, and we can just do something similar to that for something else.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Great. On a resource officer, is this person going to float around between the schools, assigned to one particular school, or?
I believe it's going to the elementary school, if I'm, and I'm going to defer to our
Chief,
police
come
officer,
forward.
Chief McCoy, on this question.
Kevin McCoy, Chief of Police. The school resource officer position is primarily going to be assigned to the elementary schools that are in our city and be a backup officer for Officer De La Paz.
Where do we stand right now, Chief? Do we have resource officers in all of our other elementary schools as well as our junior high? Is that
We only have one currently.
just one?
So-
Has that been primarily up at Vivian Field?
At Vivian Field, yes, sir.
So this one was going to be in,
It'll allow us to get some coverage across schools we're not currently able to spend time at because of the demands on the officer that's at Vivian Field. So one of the deficiencies that I identified early on was that we need better coverage across the school district. So reach out to the schools to begin discussion about how we can backfill in that and get some more coverage in that area. So that's what this officer will fill in the areas that are currently, they're covered, they're just not as covered as well as they should be.
okay. Are we getting any requests from private schools for any?
We have received some requests. I've heard secondhand, I haven't received any directly for school resource officers, and there's some funding that some schools provide to do off-duty jobs for officers to work overtime. But there hadn't been an official request, and it would be hard for the police department to provide that to a private entity, but in an overtime and an extra job capacity, that's something that we can and do currently support.
Okay, okay. Councilman Merrick?
Thank you, Chief. This actually is for the fleet replacement fund reserve. I want to emphasize what we talked about in the study session, that this adjustment is a one-time adjustment now, but this complements a 4-year plan to get the fleet timeframe into the duration that we want to target. Is that correct? It's a long-winded kind of question. I want to give you credit for addressing the needs of the fleet. It's not a one-time issue. It's a one-time issue now, but you have a 4-year plan in order to move the fleet into a more corrective duration of replacements.
So, yes, sir. Tom Higgs, Fleet Facilities Director. So to answer your question, yes, sir. So what we're doing right now is making a one-time adjustment in this middle of this budget year for all the inflation items that we named that basically were what we were trying to anticipate for 12 months ago, right? And I have a more extensive plan that's going to be coming in the new budget cycle that addresses the fleet as a whole.
Yes,
Yes,
I
sir.
want to make sure that the folks watching understand that we're trying to get the fleet in a more corrective cycle of the utilization that we have. We've extended them much longer than we've anticipated, meaning that we ought to, I think if you're going back here where the fire truck and ambulance are changing from 17 to a 12-year replacement, and other vehicles from a 10-year to an 8-year. So you're working on this on a long-term plan, 4 years being a long-term, to get the entire fleet on a recurring cycle.
Yes, sir. That's exactly correct. That's exactly correct.
All right, thank you. No other questions,
Okay.
Mayor.
Any other questions, Senator? Okay, council, would you like to act on this motion or this item?
Mayor, I motion that we approve ordinance 3789 as presented.
Okay, you have a motion made before you to approve ordinance 3789. Do I have a second to that?
Second.
Councilman Roman seconds. All those in favor, please mark your ballots. Okay, we have a unanimous vote of 5 on that, so that motion passes. Let's move on to item J2, is consider approving resolution number 2023-060, authorize Quantum Architects Incorporated to develop and construction documents for the City Hall renovation project in amount of $62,900. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Danielle Summers, Director of Community Services. So I'm going to bring a presentation to you tonight for the City Hall and Community Services renovation. So we're proposing, or let me start off with what I said. Why, you ask? Why do we want to do this? We want to keep providing and make better service for world-class customer service through our vision of what you would call a Genius Bar, where all customers can come to one place and they can get all their permit needs, their water utility billing, they can ask their questions. We're going to have multiple areas of where we can help a customer, hopefully right at that spot to where they don't have to go anywhere else in the City Hall. We don't have to keep sending them to other directions. We can answer all their questions in one place. This is also going to provide security enhancements for staff and visitors. What can you get at a Genius Bar? You can get answers to hopefully most of your questions. Public works permits, building permits, police permits, alarm permits, utility billing will move over there. And so you'll be able to take care of all that, your utility billing needs with new accounts, paying your bill, whatever that needs to be, public information requests, and we just added health permits. So you'll also be able to do those at this one counter. How will we get there? City Council, you just approved the $1.2 million budget transfer. So my request tonight is for the professional services agreement with Quorum Architect. It's for $62,900 for them to start creating the construction plans to go to bid. We will be managing the project ourselves. So once it goes to bid and we select a contractor, then we will start renovations. So we'll get all that under contract with a new construction company. We'll work out how we're going to stay open. We want to make sure that we keep our level of service in place while we're under construction. So we'll work with a new contractor to figure out how that's going to work to make it safe and still accessible. We're hoping to complete the project by December 1st. It's pretty aggressive, but we're gonna push it along as fast as we can to try to get it finished. So the inconvenience to staff and the public and our residents, our customers, is minimal. So this shows you our proposed layout for the lobby. You'll see some seating areas with the stairs are going to go away. We have plenty of stairs in the City Hall to where we don't especially need those stairs. We're going to make it a little bit different for the accessibility for upstairs to provide security for staff. And so you're going to be able to come to this counter and you're going to be able to ask for somebody from planning, and they're going to come and they're going to take you upstairs. Or we also have, I guess I'll show the floor plan. This is the tentative floor plan. So we have a conference room we're going to create off to the side so that you can meet with your applicants. Anybody in the city could reserve it to be able to meet down here. We have these seating areas that you can see in the picture right here, that you can sit out there in a really nice, inviting, comfortable area to meet with your customers or just hang out for a little bit in a nice, comfortable area. A large portion of the remodel is in the community services area. We're going to be taking down some walls and remodeling to have the counter out there with some security glass to provide safety for staff. Right now, we are completely open, so this will provide the safety that times kind of warrant, that you need to be a little bit safer for your staff and residents if need be. So we'll have, the anticipation is to have 4 or 5 customer success representatives, is what we're going to call them, and to man that counter all the time so there's not going to be any waiting. You're always going to be able to come up there, you're going to be able to get your questions answered, or we're going to be able to direct you. And so that's the anticipation. If you have any questions, you see any pictures again, or?
So you're going to do primarily community service right here at this side, but I know when I come down here once in a while, people coming in here are not familiar, and if we don't have somebody out there, they're wandering around and trying to find community services, so that'd be good.
Correct. So everything is going to be at that countertop. We're going to close off that end of the hallway. We have human resources and IT back there, so this is going to provide some security for them, and so there's not going to be any access. Typically, human resources and IT is a staff-driven department. It's not really public. So we're going to close that off to provide that safety back there. And you're going to be able to hopefully get all your problems, questions, permits, anything that you need, we're going to try to take care of right at that counter.
Okay. Council, questions, comments? Councilman?
Yes, thanks Danielle for the presentation. I have I think kind of an obvious question. That's a pretty ambitious or aggressive timeline. I mean, we're almost in the middle of the year and, to have this done by the end of the year, but how, do you have definite plans or is this a work in progress? How you're still going to take care of, the public, servicing people coming in here for various things, permits, bills, et cetera, during this whole renovation process, because this is the main customer front entrance. So have you worked out those things, or is that all in the works?
It's still a huge discussion right now. So this approval tonight for Quorum Architects, they've already semi started on looking into the plans. They have to do construction plans, they have to do plumbing, electrical, and mechanical plans. So they're going to start that immediately tomorrow. Once I call them and say you are approved, I'll send them their agreement. And they'll start on that immediately. Their timeline that we're tried to work with them is 3 to 4 weeks. So as soon as that comes in, we're going to send it straight to bid. Working with purchasing, Camille, in purchasing and trying to get that to go through as fast as we can. I mean, everybody's on board. We're all excited about the prospect of what this could mean for the whole city, City Hall. And so it's going to be a very collaborative project for most of us and, most of us employees. And so we're going to move it along. It is very aggressive. Most of this is, a lot of it's demo. The remodel part is just going to be taking a lot of stuff down. Putting things back, most of it's just going to be the wall with the doors and then the counter that we're going to put there. The interior is just going to stay pretty, just new carpet or something like that, because we're going to do some kind of transition type of, or not transition, but movable kind of cubicles so that the customer service success representatives that are standing there, they can see when somebody comes up to that counter and they can immediately address it. And so I think that it's fairly feasible. The things out in the lobby, those are pretty movable. So those will come as we get the rest of that stuff done. So it is aggressive, but we're going to try.
Yeah.
No promises. You don't know about materials and
Sure.
construction timelines and stuff, but we're crossing our fingers.
Yeah, I like the conceptual design of it because when someone comes in here, this is just a vast empty space and you have to kind of look to even see there's a receptionist way back there. And this makes it a lot more customer service oriented and it's almost like you have a concierge that someone can come up there, answer the questions. Well, we handle that over here, we handle that over there. You can get that online. And I think that would be a big enhancement to just taking care of, vendors, business people and our residents. And obviously having the security enhancements, that's something I've always been, a strong advocate for. And I think it's a very nice conceptual design and hopefully make, the city's business and with our residents and businesses far more efficient and pleasant. So I'm supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Councilman Jackson?
And Mayor, I'd just like to say thank you, Danielle. This is, other than it looks really nice and new and fresh, it's very reminiscent of, or representative of today's, corporate environments where there are pockets for collaboration, sound dampening measures so that you can have conversations without disrupting others around you. There's also a nice big open space still so that we can have, art displays from our schools and the wall of compliments for our staff and employees.
And our Christmas tree.
Big Christmas tree.
Can't forget
Yes,
the Christmas
cool.
tree.
Yes, I like that. The improvement to the customer experience, right? We have residents, business owners, contractors that come through here all day, every day, to do business with us. And we have a receptionist, but where they do business is kind of hidden in the hallways, and those hallways expose our staff members to security vulnerabilities. So I really think this is a very smart design. I think the removal of the staircase was a great idea and to provide that additional security. So in echoing Councilman Driscoll's comments, I'm very supportive of this. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councilman?
I just wanted to add one thing for everybody that's listening and for the council is we're not adding any positions to make this happen. We're consolidating existing positions from multiple departments. So there's not any headcount being requested or added to make this come to fruition. So we're being smart with our resources, not asking for anything in return to offer an enhanced service level, including the phones, because that'll be something this group will be doing as well. When I put all these pieces together, you shouldn't, in theory, ever not have somebody answer the phone when you call the City of Farmers Branch, which is something we're really excited about.
I'm just happy we designed and built something the last 35 years we didn't have to change for the few things we've done. Okay, council? No comments? We want action on this item?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution R 2023-060 as presented.
Councilman Driscoll made the motion to adopt this item. Do I have a second to?
Second.
Second by Councilman Roman. All those in favor, please mark your ballots. Okay, we have a unanimous vote of 5-1 on that. Okay, that's all
Thank
the
you,
regular
everyone.
agenda items on that. Okay, now that brings us to item L, which is citizens' comments. I think I have some on that, and I want to caution you. Our city attorney keeps telling me I'm not honoring the light system, so let's go by that tonight. When the light turns red, you're off. So, okay, with that, I have just one, James Lockridge.
James Lockridge, 11771 Mar-a-Lago. I just want to start off with a compliment to Michael. He has been good at helping me the last couple of weeks. Life's been tough up here, a lot tough. A lot of code of ethics being broke, a lot of slandering going on. I don't go to your businesses. I don't go to your residence and I don't go to your house and slander you to your clients or anybody else. I don't call your clients. Omar, leave my people alone. Don't do it anymore. It's not appropriate and it's not right for you to go to my clients and try to get me run off. Don't ask him to not have me talk at city council. I have the right to be here as a citizen. Enough is enough, city council, Farmers Branch. This has made it all the way to the state. The state is looking at us and wondering, why am I being bullied so much? It is ridiculous and it is crazy. It's absurd. Tina, I've called you 3 times. It's not hard to answer the phone. You don't have to call Michael to talk to me. Okay? If you would have answered your phone, I would have said thank you. Thank you for telling the truth. Thank you for saying it like it really was. Thank you for not calling my clients and trying to get me fired. That's what I appreciate. I don't appreciate being bullied. I don't appreciate being harassed at all. I want it stopped today. If it doesn't stop, I'll take the next action. If you want me to go away or come up here and speak nicely, treat me nicely. Treat the people nicely, please. Enough is finally enough. You're not the puppet. You're here for the people. Respect us and honor what we ask you to do. Nothing else. Thank you, Ms. Bennett.
Okay, that's all I have signed up for public participation. And with that, it concludes our meeting. I will adjourn the meeting. The time is 7:51, and thank you all for joining us tonight. Good to bid you a good evening. Thank you.